absent, just circle it to let me know that you were here and that I should change it to present. For all of your classes, we want to ask that you arrive on time so that we can start. So if you have a 7 o'clock class tonight, make sure that you're there by 6:55 so we can start 7 o'clock sharp. We'll talk to your instructors as well so that we're all on the same page. So welcome back. I want to introduce you guys to the industry hero, Dan Flora. Dan is a Dan is a copywriter at David the Agency. He was a copywriter at Miami Ad School, sitting where you guys said, I think you started in summer quarter, right? Yeah. He interned at Crispin Porter Bogusky. He interned at Apple in Cupertino, interned at David, and then was hired at David. So welcome back. Glad you're here.
Thank you. All right. Can everybody hear me? I don't really like these mics. I'm pretty freaking loud. It's only going to get louder. You need it though, Ralph? You need it? Okay, cool. Let me take this baby over. All right. So basically, when I first walked into this school, it was literally 3 years ago. July 7th, I think, was my first day. And I had seen hundreds of great ads before. And I'm like, I'm going to go to ad school and I'm going to make ads. And I'm going to do a bunch of shit. And then you look at ad school and it's like, you're going to get briefs. You're going to have teachers. You're going to have assignments. You're going to have to make things. And I always wondered, how do I know day in, day out if what I'm doing is progressing me forward? How do I know if what I'm doing is right? How do I know if I'm getting better? And really, how do I actually do this? How do I make this happen? And I'm sure new guys, new girls, new people who are already here, you probably wonder that same thing every day. Am I actually doing this advertising thing? Am I actually doing this whole creativity thing? Am I progressing forward? Am I getting better? And today, that's what I want to talk about. It's super simple, and I boil it down to two very simple things, and that's doing the work and making it epic. Now, when I first started at school, you do a lot of work, and it's just work. Let me try to do something that's a little bit different than last time. Maybe this line sounds more emotional. Maybe this line sounds a bit more funny. Maybe this art direction looks a little bit different. And you wonder, is what I'm doing even useful? Is what I'm doing even getting me better? And that's where making it epic comes in. Now, that's just a grand prequel to this overall arching thing of creativity and advertising. So that's what I'm going to talk about. But I guess let me talk to you about myself first. So as a creative, I started off coming out of upstate New York. Came down here to Miami. I knew a couple different rap songs. I knew a couple different ads. I knew how to write. And that was pretty much it. And then once I got to ad school, I learned how to do the work. And I learned how to do a couple different things day in, day out that, made sure I was doing better. And I learned a couple mindsets. So the first mindset I want to show you is from a dude named Steve Jobs. He can explain it a lot better than me. And I think it's better. It's something good for you all to know, that you can do things just as much as anyone else can. So let him explain.
The thing I would say is, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it, that's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it.
So what do I want you to take away from that as creative students? I think the most important thing that you can have in this game is a daily mindset to remember that, what do we all want to do one day? We want to win Cannes Grand Prix. We want to make a Super Bowl commercial. We want to do all that shit. Every single one of you has just as much the ability to do it as any of the other. Like, every single one of you can come up with the idea just as much as I can, just as much as my ECD can, just as much as Alex Boguski could come out of the woodwork and come back to advertising and do it. So I think step one of this game is remembering that every single day, that you can do it just as much as anyone else, and it's really nobody else was any smarter than you. They just tried to do it harder, or they figured out a way to do it. So that sounds a little lofty, right? But take that into class every day. Go get a brief, and then think, oh shit, I can do this just as much as anyone else can. Or try to submit to an award show and think, oh shit, people who submitted to award shows before, they didn't have any better idea than I did. They just figured it out for themselves. So that's step one, I think, mindset-wise. Remembering that no one is smarter than you, really. Everyone is on an equal playing field. The next thing, this is a fun one. So for me, I may sound like I know what I'm doing right now. I have no fucking idea what I'm doing right now. Okay? So Steven Spielberg, one of the greatest directors of all time, he had no fucking idea what he was doing in a lot of his movies. In fact, a lot of your creative directors have no idea what they're doing from moment to moment. A lot of your teachers don't really know what they're doing from moment to moment, but they're guarding that secret with their life, and that's why you follow them. That's what leadership is. That's why a director is there. That's why a creative director is there. That's why trust is there. And the thing about being a creative is, as you're talking to, everyone else, as you're trying to figure things out, nothing is set in stone as you're talking about it. Nothing is for certain, but you have to guard the fact that you don't believe in it 100%, and it might not work. But you got to guard that and never let anyone know that you don't know exactly what you're doing. And really, it boils down to the people who guard that fact more than anyone else that wind up leading ideas, wind up making things happen. Now, how does all that lofty shit come to life? So in terms of creativity, I follow one theory and one story from Steven Spielberg's work, putting that quote into use, and I call it Jaws theory. Okay, so you guys know the movie Jaws, right? What's like the most memorable thing about Jaws? The fin, right? The fin is like what made Steven Spielberg's legacy. The fin is what made that movie. Have you guys ever heard of what that shark was supposed to look like before that movie started? It was supposed to be this big mechanical shark. It was supposed to jump out 96 times out of the water. It was supposed to be like the star of the fucking show. All right? Steven Spielberg. Remember, guard that secret with your life. You don't really know what you're doing. He starts filming. The shark doesn't fucking work. The shark is rusting out. It's like blowing up. It's screwing things up. And he's in the middle of a production, and he's like, shit, I need to make this movie happen. What does he do? He comes up with the fin solution. That becomes the thing that makes everything happen. That becomes the thing that he's known for. So I'd say my Jaws theory of creativity, of working, is that you're never going to figure it out until you're in there trying to make shit happen. And then all of a sudden, you're gonna run into a problem, and that's when you're going to figure shit out. I know it sounds crazy. I'll get into detail with something I did later on that actually brings that concrete. Another example, we're using aquatic examples here, have a plan, okay? So you've seen all the movies with Pirates of the Caribbean. You've seen Jack Sparrow. You've seen him like try to escape from, these ships and try to jump off of the sails and go from spot to spot to spot, looking like he has it figured out. He has no fucking idea what he's doing. But he has some sort of a plan. He's like, I'm going to get from this ship to that ship. In this instance, that bow kind of worked to get to that ledge. And maybe that's like a TV ad and that's your consumer. Very like simple shit, but have like a crazy plan, but don't really have a plan. Just make something happen. I'd say the next character thing about doing the work is progress over perfection. So you guys know Dr. Dre, right? You ever heard his Detox album? Nope, never released. How many songs has he recorded for it? Probably like 300, right? So, in this school, you can get really drilled into this concept of perfectionism and like trying to do things so fucking perfect that you're never gonna have it see the light of day. You're never gonna submit it to that award show. You're never gonna actually finish that assignment. That's Dr. Dre's Detox. It never comes out. Like some people's best work never make it out there. I'd say in your day-to-day, always remember progress over perfection. Try not to like dial shit in. Try not to like have everything perfectly locked. Just try to like keep going, trying to do things better every time. Very simple thing. The next thing, that's an email. The next thing, ideas will not happen unless you make them happen. Okay? Why do I have the sword and the stone up there? So a lot of you guys have, every one of you probably has an idea that is like your career-defining idea that's sitting inside of you right now. But it's not going to come out unless you make it happen. You're the only one worthy of pulling that sword out of the stone. You're the only one worthy of putting in the work. So now, you can say that idea to someone else, and they can be like, oh yeah, that's good. That's all it's ever going to be. You have to pull the shit out. You have to do things yourself. I'd say the next thing, the good old Yoda prophecy. Beware of trying, okay? A lot of your teachers will tell you to try to write scripts differently, or like try different styles, or like try to do better, or like try to show up on time. I can't show up on time. Or like try to become a better speaker, or like maybe try to make better videos, or like maybe try to do more homework. Don't try shit. Just do it. The only thing that happens in this game, like a lot of people try ideas, a lot of people try to be better. Those people just become triers. You have to actually do things. The majority of the work that I did in this school, I had no idea on how to do before I did it. A lot of my friends who used to animate case studies, which all of you will be doing if you want to submit to award shows, had no idea how to do animations. They got themselves in there. They didn't try. They did. So, American Psycho fans? Anyone? All right. So how much can Patrick Bateman tell you about Whitney Houston's album, simply entitled Whitney? A lot, right? If you've ever read the American Psycho book, there's entire chapters dedicated to single albums or like single stereo sets or just like talking all about a Valentino suit collection. I boil that down to his line from Huey Lewis in the News, it's hip to be square, which in advertising, it's actually really cool to know a lot of odd shit about very odd things. Now, how does that boil out? Okay, I worked on an idea called Google Home of the Whopper. That never happened unless I had a Google Home in my living room and I knew that voice technology worked. At that point in time, really weird shit. Really, really weird shit. Artificial intelligence stuff is starting to happen now. The more in depth you know about that, you might seem like a weird tech nerd or like a lot of people know shit about blockchain. I have no fucking idea what blockchain is, like at all. But somebody's going to do a can-winning blockchain idea one day, and it's going to be amazing. So I would say like every one of you have things that you want to know really, really, really deeply on, and it might like sound weird if you start bringing it up in a brainstorm, you start bringing it up in class. Go deep. Know more and more and more. That's the cool shit that's actually going to come out and work. The next one. This is the single most important one in here. The single most important part of being a student, single most important part of being a creative, okay? Kanye West, lock yourself in a room doing 5 beats a day for 3 summers. That's why I deserve to do these numbers, okay? Kanye put out more material. There we go, all right? Kanye put out more material, tried more things, tried more scripts, tried more fucking rhymes, tried more fucking beats, locked himself in a room and did that shit. That's why he's good. Bar none, that's it. When I was here in ad school, I literally sat at that table over there in the corner every day, 7 days a week, tried more scripts, tried more ads, tried more ideas, tried more submissions, tried more case studies, more. Okay? Put the time in and it's gonna come out. There's no shortcuts. There's only shortcuts in Photoshop, so you can like use the clicker tool. That's it. Your only shortcuts are in Photoshop. There's no shortcuts in time. There's no shortcuts in putting the work in. And next up, you're all gonna have partners here. Top gun, never leave your wingman, all right? Sometimes it's good to leave a partner. Sometimes it's not working out. But if you have a partnership and it's gonna work out, especially if you wanna succeed in this school, you need to have someone you're working with. I saw a lot of creatives in my time here. I even see it in the professional world where they think they have it all themselves. Like you start becoming resentful of your art director. Even when I was here, I had a really bad habit of doing all of the decks myself for class because I didn't trust art directors to do it. I'm a copywriter. It's probably a dickhead move. So you have to know that the creative partnership is the way that things come about and the way that things work in this industry. And also, the second that you go solo, it's all on you. You're going to be stranded. That's it. So I'd say the last tenet of doing the work, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. You guys know the Cobra Kai Dojo, Karate Kid? Any fans here? Come on. Any fans of the Cobra Kai Dojo? Yell? No, nothing. All right, so Johnny had to sweep the leg back in the day. His dad was crazy. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Fear does not exist in this dojo. Pain does not exist in this dojo. Mercy is for the weak. All right, writers, I'm talking to you right now. Have you ever stared a blank page in the face and had to write shit? All right, remember those three things. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Start writing as much as you can. Don't frickin' stop. Otherwise, that page is gonna strike first, it's gonna strike harder, and all of a sudden you're not writing tomorrow, you're not writing next week, you're never writing again. Now that was a bunch of esoteric, lofty work concepts. Cool stuff. Hopefully some of that landed. Now the next part, the part that you're really all here for, and where I get to really like talk about some work and some advertising stuff, and not try to like be a creative self-help dude, is in the making it epic part. So what this school is going to teach you is a lot of different ways to execute. You're going to have digital things. You're going to have experiential things. They're going to burn interactive into your brain, all right? You're going to try to do PR stunts. You're going to try to do scripts. You're going to try to do prints. You're going to try to do ad homes. You're going to try to do AI. All of that is about making the work epic, all right? And all of those things are the way that you get to communicate the core idea of the brand. You get to communicate to the world. You get to grab their attention. They don't like amateur shit. They like epic shit. They like to pay attention to things that are actually cool. So I have a little thing that I always try to remember. A lot of times you're going to be making shit for class. You're going to have 10 minutes before class. You're going to be like, fuck, I just got to make this thing work. I just got to hand it in. A lot of times in the agency, you're like, shit, I got to write a 10-second all food script about this Whopper again. I just want to make it work. Do I have to say flame grilled another time? Stop trying to make it work. Start trying to make it epic. That's when good shit comes. That's when different types of ideas come. A lot of the times you're going to get bored. Like, all of you are going to take tools class. I fucking hated tools class. Okay? Like, I'm a copywriter. I didn't want to work with pastels and stuff. Kim, I love you. But I hated doing that. And then she saw it. She saw it for a while. And she's like, I don't understand art. But she's like, Dan, there's literal anger coming through in your art. I didn't understand that. So I started trying to make the work epic. And she's like, I guess anger is your thing. Just channel the anger into the art. All of a sudden, my art got better. I don't know how to evaluate it or anything, but stop trying to make it work and just hand in the assignment. Start trying to make it epic. Maybe you have a little bit of fun. Maybe you do something better. Another thing about that. So I'm going to show, my most epic favorite commercial after this. We'll start looking at some work, have a little fun, talk about that. But another thing about that is I completely forgot what the fuck I was going to say about trying to make it epic. Move on. Whatever. Fuck it. So this is my personal most favorite epic commercial. Now, when it comes to, script writing, when it comes to executing, when it comes to grabbing people's attention, making things that look cool, I always want to make badass 80s rock shit. Stuff that's just super awesome. And in ad school, you're going to make a lot of vanilla shit. I made a lot of vanilla shit. Some really bad stuff that I would never show. And it's because I was trying to make it work, not make it epic. So here's my most epic favorite spot. This is from Dodge.
We don't have to worry about predators like our ancestors did. No saber-toothed tigers stalking from the brush. No dire wolves circling the camp. There are no more monsters to fear. And so, we have to build our own.
Fucking badass, right? Epic as shit. Now, clap for it, clap for it. So, here's what I want to give a little lesson on writing, okay? Listen to that script. How many lines is there in that? It's like 6 lines, right? A lot of the times as writers, we think like, oh shit, like you guys have seen Imported from Detroit or Halftime in America. They're like these 2-minute epic fucking flowing monologues, like Shakespeare wrote those things. A lot of the times, a script is going to stare you in the face and it's going to have 3 lines in it and like 1 visual thing that's happening. That's fucking epic. Now, why is that epic, okay? When people are watching film, it's not about, here's, look at this thing and look at this thing and listen to my fucking writing. I'm a badass writer, yeah. No. They just want to see, they just want their attention directed. Simply progressing the storyline along. Now, why does that spot work so well? Because it uses the metaphor of the Predator for those 2 cars, but also it has the badass backing track and a VO that lets you have the space to show all of those things. Now, that's like high-level stuff. You're not going to like be making film things in here as much. But I'd say when you're thinking about your case studies, you're thinking about the ideas you're putting out there, trying to submit to awards, scale back the writing a lot. Like try to write as little as you can. My rule of thumb used to be like 1 line shouldn't wrap around into 2 lines. It should just be 1 line, 1 line, 1 line in a Word doc. A lot of simple shit, but the simplest stuff is the most epic stuff. So that's one way of looking at it, in terms of film. Stop trying to make it work, start trying to make it epic. The next thing, I worked for a dude named Anselmo Ramos. He just started his own agency in South Beach called Gut. And he's one of like the most lion-winning people ever. They call him the Lion Tamer. He's a lover of Jean-Claude Van Damme. And he did not make the epic Split commercial, which he's very sad about. He also has no eyebrows. It's hilarious. So his big thing in terms of doing great work was would the New York Times write about it? So, this is a question that, a lot of, I would say the majority of the ideas that I make in my career won't get written about by the New York Times. I'm lucky enough to have made one idea that got written about it 3 times in the New York Times in one day. That'll never happen again. So that question is one that we're always asking ourselves at David, one that I'm always asking myself when I do my work, one that you guys maybe should be asking yourself. If I put this out there, would anyone give a fuck enough about it to write about it? So why this is so important in advertising is that, like, basically the old way of advertising is straight up dead. Like, TV advertising kind of works like if you're selling burgers and it's like, hey, we have a 2 for $6 promotion at Burger King this week. Awesome. But if you're trying to make like high level, brand statements, things that get a lot of attention, you need to feed the news cycle. So right now, the way that advertising has changed is that we have a 24-hour news cycle that's always on. There are bloggers always sitting there waiting for something to write about because they get paid for the number of impressions that come to their pages. So basically, what we try to do at David, what a lot of great creatives try to do now, is make things that feed that news cycle. So when you're coming up with ideas, One, yeah, would the New York Times write about it? Like, good benchmark. But think, if I were a blogger and I was getting paid to bring people's eyeballs to my story, would I write about my idea that I'm like presenting in class right now? Chances are, like, the stuff you're coming up with probably wouldn't meet that metric. Half the stuff I come up with wouldn't. I'd say 90% of the stuff I come up with does not meet that metric. But that's something to always be thinking about. Like, one, would I even share it on my own Facebook wall? Half the stuff I do probably wouldn't. And also, would people who get paid to write about things give enough of a fuck to actually write about my thing? So I got lucky enough to stumble upon an idea in a moment in time where the New York Times wrote about it. A lot of people wrote about it. And I'll show you what it is. You've probably seen it before.
Listen, Burger King, quit messing with my mind. Quit messing with my emotions.
You're watching a 15-second Burger King ad, which is unfortunately not enough time to explain all the fresh ingredients in the Whopper sandwich. But I got an idea. Okay, Google, what is the Whopper burger?
According to Wikipedia, the Whopper is a burger consisting of a flame-grilled quarter-pound beef patty, sesame seed bun, mayonnaise, lettuce, tomato, pickles, ketchup, and sliced onion.
The problem is the definitions are coming from the Whopper's Wikipedia page.
People trolled the absolute hell out of Burger King by constantly changing what Wikipedia said.
Patty made with 100% medium-sized child.
Wikipedia's locked it down, although oddly they've locked it with the promotional copy.
And after a few back and forth entries, Burger King eventually restored the original content.
Google says it made changes to stop its devices from responding to Burger King's marketing stunt.
At first, Google had said it would fix it, but then apparently Burger King released additional ads last night that still trigger it, so. Wow.
Okay, Google.
Okay, Google, what is
The Whopper
burger?
Oh, it did work.
It did work.
These were the results. 9.3 billion global impressions, $35 million in earned media, more than 15 million organic views online. Trending topic on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Google Trends. Burger King's most talked about TV spot in history. Started a debate around the limits of advertising and invasive technology.
Listen, was this innovative? Yes. It's pretty smart, but the future does scare me.
And also, it does shine a light on the very real problem we're going to have with integrated smart household.
The 15-second ad was a first of its kind.
Okay, Google. Thank you.
Whatever.
All right, so that was Google Home of the Whopper. The New York Times wrote about it 3 times. A lot of people wrote about it. Half the world over freaking saw it. So that's a technology idea working with a fast food chain that sells burgers. Pretty odd combination for, you guys probably to hear, right? When I first started here, not a combination I thought I would ever be putting together in my life. I thought I would be talking about, like, this burger is flame grilled and tastes better because this. Ironically, that's what that guy says, and then Google finishes it for him. So why does this idea work, right? There's a couple different levels to it, and there's a couple things you can pull from this, to know what you should be looking for when you're out there reading articles on a day-to-day basis. Like, how can I pull this into my work? How can I use it to influence something? So the whole Google Home, Amazon Alexa thing back around 2016, Juan Munoz, one of my teachers here, was like, get on that voice-activated technology shit. Like, technology is awesome. So I'm like, oh yeah, fuck it. Let me buy one. Like, keep it around. Let's see what happens. We had one of those bouncing around when I was interning at Apple. It was in my living room, and my buddy Richard came, and like a TV activated it, and Alexa was like, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. And we're like, shit. The television can activate the Alexa. Okay, there's something there. We don't know what yet. And then we wind up getting to David, and Ricardo and Juan, you guys have probably met them. They were kicking around something about Google Home and Burger King, and we just kind of all hopped on it, and we're like, holy shit, this could be the most invasive marketing thing ever done, ever. Now, that probably sounds backwards. Like, yeah, let's do the thing that makes people think that Burger King is the most invasive and like deprivatized marketer ever. But that actually wound up being what shocked people so much that they paid attention to it. So we're lucky enough, so pull this out of there. 1, new tech. 2, lucky enough to have a client that takes risks and thinks that that's a good thing to do. So one thing you should always be doing with the brands that you work with, and it's your portfolio. You can choose to work with whatever fucking brand you want to work with. Look for brands that aren't afraid to actually do polarizing things, aren't afraid to poke people, aren't afraid to like try to, be subversive and make people think about what's going on and actually like poke their attention. So we're lucky enough to have a crazy enough client like Burger King to do those things. But, the main thing that really made this work is go back to that original thing I said, think like a blogger and think, what story do I write today? Holy shit, a TV ad just activated my Google Home. That's crazy. Like, so many people will be like, the television just came out of the television into my living room. If you're, like, to advertising people, it's like, oh yeah, cool execution. To the normal fucking consumer, that's like, oh my God, like, they have my credit card data. It's crazy. So think like that, like trigger people that hard. And triggering in a PC society, no. Be an advertiser, trigger the fuck out of people. It's awesome. That's Google Home. This boils into, another one of my great creative leaders, Eminem. So Eminem is the most controversial rapper probably of all time, outside of maybe NWA. Basically anything the dude does, people talk about over and over and over. They dissect everything that he does. He's not afraid to say what he stands for. He's not afraid to go out there and press buttons. He's not afraid to lay it all out there on the floor. He's not afraid to go to court over things, okay? A lot of brands out there aren't afraid to go to court over things. A lot of brands get sued for things. So, one thing I'm trying to pull out of Eminem for you guys is you may get taught here by some teachers to, go down the middle, do like nice, easy approaches, do nice scripts that have a good message and everything's positive. Well, not everything in the world is positive. Not everything about your brand is always positive. Sometimes things aren't that good. Sometimes you have things that are a little bit controversial that actually might tell a lot about your business. So one thing that, our client Burger King did, my partner Curtis did, was that Burger King flame grills. And when you flame grill, your stores catch on fire. Pretty freaking simple. Now, do you think Burger King should release that to the public? Be like, hey, our stores catch on fire. No, not a smart business move, right? Actually, wrong. Now everyone knows that Burger King flame grills. They know it a little bit more, but also they're like, damn, Burger King owning up to the fact that their stores are on fire. Also, think like the blogger. You see a picture of a Burger King store on fire in a newspaper or in a print ad. You think you're going to talk about that shit? Like, oh, Burger King is owning up to the fact that their stores are on fire. Yeah, look at this advertiser, not afraid to, say what they really are. That's authentic. That's true. So Eminem, when he's being controversial, he's being himself. Like, he really does hate his mother. I don't know. Some people just hate their mother. But Burger King, sometimes your stores just catch on fire. Talk about it. It's great. So the next thing, this comes from Alex Boguski. So I talked a little bit before about, the old era of advertising, how you just put your message out there and every 30 seconds you say something and hope that the people pick it up. Look, there's one thing to think about. Like, we aren't artists, okay? We're advertisers. We're trying to get a message out there. And if you want to think you're an art form, just think that we're an art form that people actively try to avoid. Like Basquiat, people go to Basquiat shows. They're like, oh shit, let me go look at that art. Everything that we make, people are trying to not look at. So in order to get around that, you need to do things that, kind of tap into culture, kind of poke at people, kind of get that real authentic reaction out. So I'd say Crispin Porter, I had the honor of working there back in the day. Didn't have the honor of working with Boguski, but dude was one of the greatest geniuses ever. And, keeping it in the Burger King lane, I'd say one of the greatest things ever that made culture out of a fast food chain, beyond like, hey, Ronald McDonald, he's Ronald McDonald, and he just runs around being a clown. Or, here's the king. Crispin made the king. But the one thing that made Burger King a big part of the culture was a little execution called Whopper Freakout. Now, what this did, if you guys have seen Burger King's work lately, like Whopper Neutrality, Bully, all of those types of ones where it's like hidden cam in-store type things. You've seen a lot of that type of work in advertising. It all comes from Whopper Freakout. So what Whopper Freakout did was, I'll show you, but it went beyond making an ad, and it actually brought a part of the culture out of people, actual Burger King customers, how much they love the Whopper.
Hello, baby. Guess what these motherfuckers done did at Burger King? These motherfuckers done took away from the motherfucking Whopper.
Heavens to Betsy. The Whopper. It's America's most beloved burger and has been for the past 50 years. But how do you prove love? Burger King decided to prove it by taking away the Whopper for one day in one town to see what would happen. What happened was the Whopper Freakout. A town was chosen in Middle America where the only BK would serve as the stage for this day of deprivation. It was rigged with cameras inside and out. Trained actors, posing as BK employees, explained this new reality to unsuspecting patrons.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew. I'm the manager of this particular Burger King. I apologize for the delay. I do need to let everyone know that the Whopper has been discontinued forever.
The nature of our social experiment meant that we truly didn't know what would happen. Burger King went into it wondering, would this elaborate scheme really prove that people love the Whopper or just piss them off?
Oh my God. They discontinued the Whopper.
Thankfully, it did both.
I need my Whopper. How about that? Whoppers?
Like that's it. Unfortunately, we no longer have Whoppers.
You cannot be serious. Is this a joke? I want your manager at the window when I get there.
To push the experiment further, we substituted a competitor's alternative for the Whopper.
It's supposed to be a Whopper. Okay, that's a Wendy's burger.
This ruse was not well received.
I hate McDonald's.
I hate Wendy's.
A roving reporter, armed with a local newspaper corroborating the story, was hired to capture the people's candid reactions to the discontinuation.
The Burger King doesn't have the Whopper. They might as well change their name to Burger Queen.
Yeah. What are you going to put on the logo now? Yeah. Home of the whatever we got?
After the experiment, it was decided to cut the hundreds of hours of footage into 15 and 30-second TV spots, and audio from the drive-thru was turned into radio ads, all of which would lead people to WhopperFreakout.com, where a streaming 8-minute documentary of the experiment could be found.
Burger King's Whopper Freakout campaign is pulling the highest advertising recall numbers ever logged by IAG research.
Well, this started out as a stunt, but now it's become an internet sensation.
Some folks began contributing to the hype with homemade freakout parodies.
You discontinued the Whopper?
Oh my God.
No burgers here anymore.
How may I help you?
Hey, young man, let me get a Whopper with no cheese.
What you mean you ain't got no Whoppers? This ain't no Burger King without no goddamn Whoppers. That's the best-selling goddamn product y'all got. Y'all ain't got no motherfucking Whoppers.
It is said that absence makes the heart grow fonder. But as Whopper Freakout proved, if you love something enough, absence actually makes you freak out.
I just want my Whopper.
Triple Whopper.
I want my Whopper. Get me a Whopper.
All right, so that's Freak Out. I think, honestly, I think that's probably one of the greatest pieces of advertising of all time. I mean, it does so many things so well. So many different executions pulled out of there. Don't think about, like, the digital side of that, because that's 2008. We have, like, smart robots and shit now. But what does Freak Out do so well? So, one, an idea starts like that. It starts with knowing that people actually love this sandwich enough to freak out about it. And then, you know that that's true. But then you also have to tell a client, hey, guys, we don't know if this is going to work, but put cameras on it and pay for it. And maybe it'll work. That's why they call it a social experiment. So, a lot of things, when you're trying to do provocative work, you have kind of an idea of how it's going to go. but you really don't know. Thankfully, Freak Out went pretty well. 2, you know, when you see those people freaking out about the Whopper, if you like the Whopper, you'd probably understand that, right? Like, a lot of you guys are probably, I'm going to say it, but McNuggets fans. I'm a Burger King guy, but a lot of you probably like McNuggets. If you went to McDonald's and they gave you Wendy's chicken nuggets, you probably freaked the fuck out. So that resonated with a lot of people online, and also it's all authentic reactions from real human beings, real people, okay? The consumer out there has long since sniffed out like most of the funny things that we try to write. A lot of the funny things that resonate with them are actual people reacting to things because they know that guy going, "Get me a Whopper." I couldn't write that line in a script and tell a guy to act it that way. I couldn't tell a Atreyu kid to show up with his Atreyu shirt and like his straightened hair and be like, okay, like you can't write that shit in a script. So a lot of the best stuff comes from culture actually participating with the brand. So something like a freak out, you know, bring this back down to like ad school level, something like a freak out is really hard to like encapsulate in a case study, but try to think of ways where you can put a platform or some situation out there for people to interact with the brand, and then you're going to get the real thoughts, real perceptions, real reactions, the real culture of that brand coming out that resonates a lot more with people out there than stuff that you're going to write down. It's just a fair fact of life. So the next thing up, you know, I worked at Apple. Steve Jobs put this on like every wall in every building that you walked into. And there were simplify, simplify, simplify. And on the wall, 2 of them were crossed off, and the third one you had to cross off yourself. That was like your daily task that you had to do when you worked there. So, you know, this one's a film that I'm going to show. But I think a lot of the work that you'll do in here, a lot of the work that I did when I was here, incredibly overcomplicated. And why is that? Okay. So when you're going to present to your teacher and you have an idea, you're going to learn like a lot of the ideas are said in one line, and that's it. That's all you need. How does that feel if you walk into class? It's like, hey, teacher, 1 sentence. Thanks. Like, it looks like you didn't do your work, right? But in advertising, the simpler you have things, like, the better it is most of the time. And the good thing is to realize that if you have something that's very simple, like a burning stores, where it's like, hey, store's on fire, put a logo on it, done. Don't need to overcomplicate it, all right? So simplifying is a really, really, really important part of this game. And this is one of my favorite spots that, you know, I think is one of the simplest ones ever. All right, now what does that look like if you bring it into your teacher? Nike Shocks, boing, people run on them. Like, that's what your assignment looks like when you turn it into your teacher. And I think that's one of like the biggest paradoxes of being a student, and even like in my career, is figuring out that like you can put one line on a page and like that's done, that's it. And sometimes it's like, stop there, done, don't overcomplicate it. Nike Shocks, boing, they have shocks in them, they go boing. Steve Jobs would love that. So the last one, Tony, my ECD at David. So a lot of the work that you're going to do here requires like somebody to do something on social media, or it's like some type of challenge, or it's like, we're going to put this here and see if people do this, or like, let's put this booth here and see if people interact with it this way. And you know, I think there's a tendency to think that other people will do things, but then you always have to ask yourself, would I do this challenge myself? Would I go, you know, like one of the weirdest things I ever saw was the Nivea sunscreen baby, where it's like this baby that like secretes sunscreen when it turns red and it's been in the sun for too long. I mean, mothers would use that. That's great. If I came up with that idea, I'd be like, I wouldn't do that. So something you always have to ask yourself is, would you do it? Would you post about it? Would you be happy to share that video? Would you put it in your portfolio? Would you think it's cool? If you wouldn't do it, probably shouldn't put it out there. So that was the genesis of an idea that we worked on last year called Whopper Severance. So it's a challenge. It's kind of crazy. I'll show you what it is.
Burger King will give you a free burger if you get fired. But first, you have to tell people that you got the boot.
You don't get a Whopper until you actually go to LinkedIn, that site.
All you have to do is post, I got fired, I want a free Whopper with the hashtag Whopper Severance.
First 100 people who admit publicly that they were fired will also get 30 minutes of one-on-one time with someone from the Muse.
Because that's the first thing on my mind after I get fired.
Is that you want a Whopper?
Thanks, Burger King.
All right, so that's Severance. That one literally started from, we had that idea, and it was like, would you do it? I don't know, it's fucking crazy. We didn't know if anyone would do it. It goes back to the Whopper sacrifice days, if you guys have seen that. One of the old BK Facebook ones where it was like, if you delete 10 friends off of your Facebook, we'll give you a free Whopper because flame grilling is better than friends or something like that. Really stupid, but it's a challenge, and you gotta say to yourself, like, shit, would I do that? It's crazy. Okay, I guess I would because I'm a creative. You know, I've been fired from a job before. My partner Curtis apparently had been fired from every job he had ever had before working at David. He claimed that I have been too, but it's not true. But a lot of people had their firing stories, and a lot of people would do it. Now, I guess one thing that I want to click back to is Google Home of the Whopper, just to talk about that thing before I close off with the whole do the work, make it epic. It's that simple. I talked earlier about my whole Jaws theory, where it's like the true nature of an idea never reveals itself until you're in there trying to make it happen. So when you watch that case study about Google Home, a lot of shit went wrong, right? People were fucking with the Wikipedia page. Wikipedia's trying to shut it down. Google's blocking us. We beat Google. None of that was in the original script for how this was supposed to go down. The thing almost didn't air on TV at the end of the day. So what ends up happening? How do we end up outsmarting Google as Burger King kids? It actually winds up being me and Ricardo standing in his living room trying every possible combination of something with Fernando, on the phone, trying to figure it out. No, it works. Shit, it works. Go back, talk to the editor. Try to change this. Try to change this. Jaws theory. That's where that's us being Steven Spielberg saying, shit, the shark doesn't work. Guess we got to use the fin. And what we wound up doing was making some stupid high-pitched voice and then a Spanish accent and then a stupid low voice. Probably the dumbest thing you could do in the world, but it beat Google. Okay, so I guess the final thing to end with, remember that, remember the Jaws theory, and then it's two simple things, day in, day out. Just do the work and try to make it epic. I know a lot of what I said throughout this sounds super redundant and repetitive and overly simplistic, but that's what this is over and over. If copywriters here, if you've ever written headlines, written 300 of them, and tried out different ways to say the or and or but, it's that every day. That's what your job's going to be, trying to figure out, oh shit, I've been working on this brief for the past 9 days. Still got to come up with more ideas. Flame grilling, Burger King, what about this? That's it. You just keep doing it over and over again. And I think, you can get really deep in the weeds trying to come up with things. You can get really deep into, maybe I'm a designer, maybe I'm an art director, maybe I'm a photographer, maybe I should do animation. How do I know if that's the right path? How do I know if what I'm doing at this school is making me better? How do I know if I'm better this quarter than I was last quarter? Are you doing the work? Are you trying to make it epic? Two simple things. And if you do that every day, I think you'll be pretty good. That's all I got.
Hey guys, I've seen a lot of talks. This one was absolutely epic. Standing ovation, please, for Ryan.
Any questions?
Yeah, Q&A, please hit it. I'm like a lot better at that.
Any questions, really? Okay.
Yeah, just go.
Let's start in the back row.
Yeah, just throw mics.
Do you get like, oh yeah, sure. How much free Burger King did you get because of this?
Oh, none. I've gotten, the only free Burger King I've gotten is when I go there and I have to try a new sandwich. I have no discount. I go there on my own and I spend my own money because the flame grilled Whopper is better than a flat top.
All right, so realistically, how many hours a week did you put in when you were at the Miami Ad School? Life happens, parties, girls.
Okay, so
distractions.
when I was here, I had a little system that I worked. And I got to tell you guys a story about how to work the school too. I left that out. So I had a little system going where what I would do was I would go to class. So like you have your classes, like those are set hours, right? So I'd go to class and I would just pitch the craziest shit I could in class. Stuff that I didn't think would work, stuff that I had no idea if they would like it, if they didn't. I would get that feedback, come outside, sit at the table in the corner, or like sit right there, pretty much until the sun went down, and come up with proactive ideas off of that feedback. Probably like 8 hours a day. Like the reality of my time here was I left a job to come here, so I knew like I just needed to keep up like the 9-10 hour a day schedule just to keep my sanity, because if I fell off, I don't know, I'd like be at space until 7 a.m. the next day. Like I just know myself. Sometimes I did wind up at 11 for 2 days. It happens. But yeah, like you don't have to do like the 7 days a week hardcore shit. Like I spent Thanksgiving at a table up there once. Like it wasn't really cool. My friend was Swedish though. Like it was awesome. He was like so happy to be here for Thanksgiving. But yeah, I mean, in advertising, you're going to work like 50, 60-hour weeks. Let's start doing it now, honestly. Start doing it now. And the more you pay into it, the more you get out. So, yeah. And I'd say, I always try to give little one-liners that are philosophical. Put as much time in as it takes. And that's it. Like, and you know in your gut, not to use Anselmo's, thing of talking about going with your gut, but like, you know if you're putting in the right amount of time or not. Like, you know if your execution is good or not. Be honest with yourself. And if you'll feel it if you're not putting in enough time.
All right, so
Yep.
I guess my question is what is the largest deck you've put together, and for what client?
So largest deck, like just like my teammate and I's own ideas in there. I think I've done like 100 pagers before for Budweiser. Yeah. Pretty extensive. I mean, some of those, it wasn't like an idea per slide. Like some of them were really broken out and more detailed. And also I've sold things to Burger King with one slide. I think Google Home of the Whopper was one slide. So, a lot of the times it varies per idea how much you need to put in there. Like I think when you're going to class, I try to keep things one slide if possible. If you're going over that, or like if you feel the need to use more than one slide to explain things, probably don't have it yet. Another thing I like to think of with decks is have the idea name, have the PR headline. So it's like, idea name, Google Home of the Whopper. PR headline, Burger King hacks Google Home with a TV ad. Idea write-up on how we make it happen. Always keep that PR headline there. That's something that Crispin Porter was doing, back in 1999. It's something that most agencies have adopted, and I think if you haven't, you're in the Stone Age. But something very simple for you guys to do too. Anytime you write up an idea, just write like that blogger. pretend you're at the Huffington Post. What would you say about this idea? If it's not a headline you'd read, tweak it up. Let's keep going.
So I have two questions, because now I have a question regarding that. So when you come up with the idea, what's the best way to present it, and how many slides do you try to keep it short, and do you do it in like Keynote, PowerPoint, like if you have an idea?
All right, Keynote. PowerPoint is for accountants. Do not use PowerPoint. Yeah, fuck that. InDesign, they're gonna push you on InDesign. Honestly, like I know some agencies, like when I worked at Crispin, we did decks in InDesign. Honestly, at David, you can't do InDesign just because we do so much that I think it's inefficient to a certain extent. To like, you saw my deck. That's like times bold. You like learn flat design, like learn to put one line there, use a font. Anyways, that's talking on that. So in terms of number of slides, honestly, it depends. It really depends. Some ideas need a walk-up to like the main idea slide. So like you're setting the cultural context. It depends on who you're presenting to too. So, you know, always have in mind, like if you're presenting to a teacher, what does that teacher know about the thing that I'm about to tell them? So for instance, I'll use Google Home for an example. Like if I was talking to my tools teacher, you know, I would have said, hey, there are Google Homes out there. People talk to them. It gives you information. It can tell you this. Well, it's activated by any voice. What if we do this? Versus if I was talking to, you know, our interactive teacher, I'd be like, yo, activate the Google Home with the TV. He'd be like, oh shit, done, one slide. So it's based off considering your audience. That's kind of just the basis of selling anything. Just know what your client knows, know what the audience knows. So honestly, though, rule of thumb, try to keep it to one slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have the other question was, how do you navigate client or brand rules? Like, you know, you have to keep within the rules, but then you have an idea that might be out and could be edgy.
Yeah, so the way I always look at it is, like, you look at the brand where it is at the moment, and I always like envision the most extreme thing that they can do, and then you know that they're not going to go there immediately, but you can get them to go one step closer. And that's what I'm always thinking with every execution is like, how many steps away from where they're at right now is this, and how can I maybe dial it back to one step away? And that's how you know you're going to sell them. Like, burning stores, luckily, that was one step away for Burger King. For McDonald's, that's a really fucking far step, you know? So it's like, lead a horse to water and he'll drink it. And sometimes you're just like, come on. And for a lot of clients, the river is miles away, but you just got to keep tugging them along. A lot of clients are just like, oh shit, I'm standing on the water. Go for it. So, yeah.
Questions?
Anyone? Come on. Copywriters, questions? I'm a writer. Please.
Cheers.
Yeah? We'll walk up?
Grab one.
Cool.
So you said you pitched a lot of crazy ideas. What was the craziest project that you had that actually got you noticed by future employers?
That actually got noticed by future employers? Shit, I'm trying to think back to. So the craziest one, technology-wise, was this one called Apple Music Sense, where like we saw some TED Talk where there was like this guy who was hearing colors by like something that saw them, and we figured like you could flip that so that people who were deaf could watch colors and like feel the sensations of music. And we did that as like an insert into Apple Music. And when I worked at Apple, they actually looked at it and they were like, hey, Apple Music team, like this is something good. So that was like the craziest technology-wise thing that I came up with. Honestly, most of my student work was pretty vanilla. I don't even remember.
What do you look to for like inspiration now?
Now? So here's a discussion. So a lot of people will sit there in the Can archive all day and go through case study. They think in case studies. I did that for a while, you know, and I felt that I would be coming up with ideas, and a lot of them were just piecing together different pieces from different sections of different award archives, and I'm like, shit, well, that's like half a Whopper Freakout, half a WWF eraser that Soham did 4 years ago, and like something from a Nike ad. Like, that's all I'm doing. And a lot of that, they call it like derivative thinking. So like if you look at Burger King with like hidden cam stunts, a lot of that is just derivative of like Whopper Freakout. But when Whopper Freakout came out, it was OG, completely original. When Google Home came out, completely original. So you probably don't come up with a freakout. This is just my own theory. But like, you don't come up with a freakout by looking at the CAN archive. You don't come up with Google Home by looking at what people did. So I'm always looking for original things that no one has used yet. So I look a lot in film. I look at The Verge all the time. I'm just looking at like what people who don't